Hi, my name is Nicholas Patrick, and I'm a professional film score composer. Like any other skill, if you want to get good at something, you have to practice. And one of the ways that composers practice is by doing rescores. A rescore is when a composer writes new original music to a pre existing film. This is accomplished by downloading the video, deleting all the audio, and then the composer writes all the music. This is pretty similar to an actual gig. A director hands you a video with no music, and your job is to write some. Today, I'm going to be breaking down one of my rescores to give greater insight on the creative problem-solving process. I'll explain why the music I wrote effectively serves the story, and I'll explain the musical choices that were made and why they work. Okay, let's jump right into it. So the first thing we're going to do is just go through the movie, and I'll give you some of my impressions. Then I'll play my actual rescore, and then we'll go through it play by play and break it down. So this is the movie called Silent, made by Dolby here. Silent, this is set during the period of silent films. If you don't know, silent films had no audio. It was just a movie, just black and white, a movie. There was no dialogue, there's no music. The only sound you heard was a live organist or pianist playing at the front of the theater, essentially scoring the film live for the audience. For dialogue, they just had these little boxes of text to communicate. So you don't realize it yet, kind of jumping ahead. What we're seeing is a miniature version of what you would see in a theater. This is a hand-cranked shadow box. And what we see here is a father and a daughter. These are street performers. You can see the little hat there and a few onlookers. Essentially, this is the deconstructed miniature version of what you would find in a large theater. You have your live organist and you have someone running the projector. So my first impressions is this father and daughter are happy. We should, by the way, we should take notice of the emotional cues that the video is giving us, so we'll know what to expect. Or, if you were composing this, if this was your job, it tells you basically what to do. The film, all the cues are in the film itself. So the father seems happy. I'm going to back this up and play it in real time. See him wink at the daughter, and she seems happy, smile, big old smile on her face. So back it up again. Something else we notice, backing up, is see the dirt on his shirt. Sure, he's in a suit and tie. The shadow box looks kind of disheveled. Her teeth are a little messed up. See the tattered clothes. So they're poor also, but they seem happy despite being poor. And then something unfortunate happens. Their hand crank shadow box breaks. And this is bad news because presumably this is how they make their money. So this right here gives us the idea that a hard emotional shift needs to happen. You'll hear me say that expression a few times during this because it's pretty dense and it kind of turns on a dime. So the onlookers, whatever interest they have, just immediately evaporates. They walk away, and another hard emotional shift. Nothing says sad in movies like rain. It's a tried and true trope. It's like the sky is crying, and it's not just rain. Look, it's like thundering and lightning. Now, even though they have each other, I get a sense emotionally of solitude here. It's kind of them against the world, and things are not going so well. But the movie, pressing forward, because this is an animated short, it's rushed. There's a little bit of color here. So to me, that says hope. Her curiosity gets the best of her, and she runs into... This is an actual theater. So this is the real version of what they've been doing on the street. So she must be really, really excited here. For musically, there's probably a sense of magic and hope, kind of recovering from the sad moment we just had. This is the show. So again, we get a lot of our musical instructions, as it were, from the emotional cues from the film. This is a sense of wonder, maybe a sense of magic. So when she flips that projector on, it's definitely a magical moment. Okay, so moving forward, something crazy is about to happen, something magical. The shadow of the father moves by itself and invites him into movie world. Confused, he looks over at the daughter, and she's so wrapped up in this that she has no idea what's going on. Immediately starts playing, and the magical event starts to evolve. He gets sucked into movie world, but unfortunately is immediately put into danger. Figures it out right there. That's important, by the way. He knows he's in danger. Boom. So we have to make a decision. Do we immediately put him in danger, or backing up here? Do we immediately put him in danger musically, or do we wait till he notices? You'll see later that I decided to wait till he notices. And then, that's an example right there of the dialogue. That's the only way they spoke. So he's in danger. She doesn't know. She's still playing. She's reading that music or playing that music live. And he seems to be jumping from movie genre to movie genre, all in danger for some reason. Now he's in another scene, seems to be like at war, and then she notices here. See that smile on her face? She's having fun, and then she goes, "Oh no!" Slaps that music book away. And I think from the context, tries to take control of the situation by playing her own music and putting dad in some other spot in the movie. So now he's in happy sunshine land where the trees are dancing, the sun is smiling, the flowers are dancing. It all seems to be like it's well. She's like, all right, yay. But it doesn't last long. It seems like the movie has a mind of its own. It takes back over and puts him in the exact opposite. Now he's in horror. But it's a kid's cartoon. You see the little legs. I actually love that. That's from back from my era. You can almost hear the drums kind of, a Scooby-Doo kind of run going bida bada bida bada bida bida bada boom as he runs away. She notices it's not going so well for him. And then the movie does kind of a miniature little montage here. So you can see the graveyard in the background. He's running away. But the scene starts to change over and over and over again. So rewinding this, he's in the graveyard. There's Area 51, you can see in the background there. UFOs shooting lasers at him. He's on a pirate ship. Now he's jumping off the top of a building. An explosion! That's actually a pretty cool scene. I'm sorry I stopped it there. Big old explosion. And then we do another shift here. So musically, my first instinct, backing all this up, was to do kind of a montage. At first, I would probably address each scene individually. And this, I would just kind of take a step back and make a little, somewhere between danger and somewhere wonder, just kind of a 1,000-foot stare of what's going on. So musically, when he falls into this hole here, you could keep probably the same thing going, or you could change it. I decided to change it. To me, this seems different. This is like an Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass kind of vortex he's in. We get the impression that everything is okay right here because he's smiling. This cane comes to him, and it's really pleasant lights in the background. Now, I've watched this over and over again because I scored music to it. I don't know what this button is. I have no idea what this button is. But apparently what it does is shift the movie into high gear, and it makes a little girl's dreams come true. She presses it, and look, the seats start rattling. It blows her hat off. And then Dad seems to be okay. Not just okay, backing up a little, with a little bit of flair. He spins that cane, and then you see him get bumped here. Boom. What was that? It's his little girl hugging his leg, happy as can be. And then we realize with her, there's a whole audience there now. There's a whole, this is their moment. This is their standing ovation. This is, clearly very magical. Then the doors start to close on this magical event. Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do is I'm just going to play the film, play my rescore. You can hear what I did. And I'm not going to talk or anything. And then we'll go through it play by play. So, how does this music serve the film? Well, let's start with the first piece. When I watched this film, the general impression I got from it is that it had a sense of magic to it. The first piece of music sets up the film. It tells the audience how to feel, how we feel, how the people in the movie feel, right? It's an emotional starting point. And for this particular film, it also serves as an overview. So I started with something magical. I'm going to play it and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. So stopping there, we've introduced the main melody. The instrument choices and the way the instruments are played, the expression, are all important for us to sell magic, as well as the mode. The musical mode we're in is called Lydian. It's a very helpful mode it's very cinematic mode, I should say. Very helpful in cinematic situations. Lydian can sound magical, it can sound hopeful, it can sound mysterious. It really just depends on what context you're in. And in this context, again, very magical. The instrument choices are important. I've chosen a subdued choir. They're singing, but they're not singing to the top of their lungs, just very softly. And my other instrument choices are the glockenspiel, celeste, vibraphone, all very magical, chimey little feeling, magical little chimes. Also, I've got some woodwinds that are playing very soft. And I want you to notice I introduced the main melody, and I also restate it. But when I restate it, I swell in with more dynamics. I bring in the strings and the brass, a cymbal swell, and it's timed for when the camera pulls back and reveals what world we're in, right? So take notice of that. So it's not just a song, it reacts in real time. So we've done a few things here. We've told the audience how they feel. We've set up the tone for the film. It's kind of magical and sweet and hopeful. And also, this is the main theme. This is the through line. This is a common composer technique where a composer will write a theme, main melody, something like that, that will repeat periodically throughout the film in strategic places. This helps the film to feel more cohesive, like it's one big story. Instead of the music just being tacked onto it, it feels like it was made for it, or it's a part of it. So we've given the audience the through line, but we need them to hear it a few times to set it in their memory, or it'll just get lost in the mix. Familiar is good, and you get familiar with repetition, but you don't want to overdo it. There is a subtle balance to it. I do a quick transition here with a little bit of Mickey Mousing. I musically accent the shadow box breaking, and I use it to disguise an abrupt emotional shift, a really hard shift, because we're going from sweet and magical to sad really quickly, and I use this to kind of disguise the change here. Right there. I walk us down from this high place with the vibraphone and the Celeste here. I walk us down into minor. You hear the solo cello there. And then I restate the main idea, the main melody, but I've reharmonized it as minor. I wanted them to hear it just one more good time, but I needed to serve the film. It's sad here, so it's got to be sad. I chose a solo violin because it gives a subtle, subconscious feeling of solitude. Instead of a big orchestra swell, right? And then a very soft, hypnotic piano. I believe this is in 7/8. And then a transition, a really quick, abrupt transition. We're shifting emotions again. This goes back to hopeful and magical. But without this little harp, it would sound strange. It would be just two pieces of music stacked next to each other. This harp is just a slow glissando, lifting us up, as well as I think I have a flute in here. Yeah, just literally rising, lifting us up into the next mood. Where is it? Sorry, we snap back. There we go. I've taken us back to magical and hopeful. And I've marked the projector turning on. I thought that was a particularly magical moment. Just another harp glissando, just rising. So again, everything that we need as a composer is on the facial expressions and the environment, the action, everything that's happening on screen is enough to tell us what we need. Look at her face. This is wonder and hopeful. Sure, they were sad, but now she's too distracted to be sad. Look, all that right there tells us exactly what we need. So that's what I did. One more time. So this little section here is a bit of Mickey Mousing. This is a neat trick. This is a tritone oscillation. You pick a major chord, you go to its tritone, and then you go back. It's been played with choir and my chime instruments like celeste and vibraphone. This gives it a sense of magic. Of course, the choir is a bit louder here. This is the first really magical thing that we've seen to justify, setting the whole film up as magical. And then I do a little bit of Mickey Mousing here. So when I Mickey Mouse, meaning I copy exactly what's on the screen with music, I have two gears I shift into. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes I'm telling the audience what the character is feeling. And sometimes it's literally just the actions, but what's happening. It has nothing to do with emotion. I'm just kind of accenting what's happening. And that's what's happening here with the book. Does this serve the film? This is another good question. I would say storytelling wise, no. It doesn't tell the story. It just adds a little flavor. This is like a stylistic boost. In this next section, we're going to reintroduce the through line, the main idea, one more time to remind the audience of it, because they're not going to hear it for a while. We're going to take them through a lot of twists and turns. So one last little reminder to get it in their short-term memory. And then we're going to do a very simple transition into danger with just an instrument choice. And that's this tube bell here. Once it rings, you'll get the idea that danger is in the air. Okay, so lots to talk about here. This is the first time that the score is non-diatonic. So diatonic means you're basically in key. Non-diatonic means the opposite. So this is not a chord progression that you would find on the radio or something. This is very cinematic chord progression, and non-diatonicism has that effect. So emotionally, we start off with a sense of wonder. And then for a brief moment, it feels diatonic when it hits this G chord and this D chord. This is very, very familiar to everyone's ear. Everyone here has heard this 1-5 movement. And I use that for a brief moment to zero in on the little girl's innocence. So first, there's a sense of wonder because he's in movie world, and just the magnitude, just the idea of that is just incredible, right? He's in movie world and he's going from scene to scene, and there's this moment here where she's enjoying playing, and I musically touch on that. There's this innocence and sweetness, and then I pull back for the rest of this, and I kind of focus on him being in danger. And at this point, bar 47, or this G minor, it really kind of pumps the gas. Now, this is a kid's movie, and I'm trying to keep it kind of subdued. This is not a thriller or an action film or a horror. This is a kid's movie, so we got to keep it tame. But there is a sense of urgency and danger, and I kind of pump the gas right at this point. So let's listen to it again. Pump the gas here. So I hit the tube bell again when she notices Dad's in trouble to signal danger. And I Mickey Mouse the piano. So she starts playing piano, and I see this as a great opportunity to mix in my own notes and set up what's coming next. So it's not just a bunch of busy notes. They're leading the ear to the next key. I set it up so that these, I think it plays a think it plays, oh yeah, A diminished and then a G diminished. So diminished is kind of like a cheat code for changing keys. You can go to just about any key from a diminished chord. And we do a very hard emotional shift, and we'll discuss that. So again, as the composer, what's on the screen tells you what the music needs. All the cues, all the clues are right there. This is clearly on the picture. This is clearly a very hard shift from Danger to Happy Sunshine Land. So I change everything. Except for the meter, I change the key. I change the feel. I change the instruments. I change the tempo. I change the dynamics. I change literally everything because this is such a hard shift. So I shift hard musically. Right from here to here. Let's do it one more time. And then of course there's another hard shift right there. I blend in a little sound design that sounds scary, as well as something cartoony sounding. So when he's running, you can hear the little xylophone for his feet, as well as you can hear the trill in the clarinets. There's a whole tone trill just to soften it up a little bit. Also, I blended in a sound design effect. This is kind of a scratching cymbal effect. In horror, in another context, that would be terrifying, but it's tucked underneath and it's blended in there. I want there to be something scary in there, so usually atonal is a great way to go for scary. So this section here is another non-diatonic section. It felt like a montage, a movie montage for me. And in movie montage, it doesn't really zero in on the characters. It kind of pulls back and gives you an overview feeling, musically that is. And how does that music serve the film? Well, it's kind of larger than life. It's big. It's very cinematic. It's wonderful. And non-diatonic is a great way to get those cinematic feelings. But then I shift hard. When he jumps off the building and there's an explosion, he's passing through a different genre of movie. It's like an action movie genre. So, and it's just too delicious for me to not musically acknowledge that. So I throw in some staccatos to raise the tension, the ante. And it feels really big, and it feels like it might get even bigger. I'm kind of subverting the audience's expectations because I'm about to take it way down. This next section is when he's in the Alice in Wonderland kind of ethereal place, and I try to musically represent that while bringing back the main idea. So we bring back the main idea. It feels very ethereal. There's no rhythm, if you notice. There's nothing driving it forward. The music, that is. There's just a little bit of brass, a little bit of choir, and there are these hypnotic little chimes tucked underneath that are just kind of going wild, building an ambiance. Now, we're nearing the end of the film, which is why it's time to bring back the main idea. So I switched to another non-diatonic, very cinematic chord progression for when she pushes this button here and something magical is happening. But I could have kept going. I could have played the melody 3 times. 1, 2, 3. but I didn't. I wanted to break away from it for contrast. I wanted to have this big moment and then come back to it. When we hear it again, it'll be full dynamics. This is the big moment. So all the instruments are turned up to 11, right? The intensity of the players is max. So we have it soft, and we have we depart from it, right? We depart from the main melody, and then we come right back to it full blast. And I think this has a really great effect for impact. So we're hearing it again, full blast, all the sections playing in harmony, playing maximum intensity. This feels, it no longer feels just magical. It feels like celebration. It feels celebratory, right? And how does this serve the film? Well, it's the big moment. It's the big moment, so it's time to go big, right? The next thing we're going to hear is just a bombastic outro. It's something that's interesting to notice. That this is in Lydian, so the chord progression is going back and forth between 4 and 5, 4 and 5. But it never quite hits the 1, right? The 1 is what makes it feel like home. So the very last chord that I hit is the 1. I essentially end on a major feel, and that makes it feel like a sense of completion. Okay, so that is my rescore breakdown. Thank you guys for checking it out, and we'll see you on the next one.